Hey, it's Sean and welcome to my travel channel, and today we're doing everything spooky in Salem, Massachusetts. And just like we're going to be doing Halloween stuff, we're also going to be checking out the original locations for some of the Hocus Pocus filming sets that they filmed over 30 years ago in much anticipation for the sequel that's coming out soon. So our game plan is that we're going to be checking out some Halloween spots as well as the Maritime Museum and some Puritan spots that are famous in the city as well. And in case you recognize the location behind me here, this was the spot where they filmed the Hocus Pocus party and when Bette Miller sung her famous song, Put a Spell on You. So before we start our journey, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's go see if this town has anything spooky to offer. We're starting our journey at the Bewitched Statue, which was made for the famous 60s TV show Bewitched. But it's right by Essex Street, which is hustling with activity. There's museums, restaurants, really cool shops. And the street itself is cobblestone, and they block it off from traffic, so you have kind of a free range to walk around, but a lot of people here in the fall. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go get a bite to eat, maybe something a little spooky or pumpkin. So let's go find a place to eat. Lunch definitely hit the spot. The burger was very good. It tasted really good, especially since we didn't have a chance to get breakfast this morning. Andrea had clam chowder, which is a Massachusetts staple. Definitely recommend checking out Rockefeller's, and it's very convenient, has some nice views of Essex Street as well. But we're now walking towards the witch house, so we're going to check in once we're there. We finished our tour at the witch house, which is the original house where Jonathan Corwin used to live, and he was one of the judges in the Salem witch trials. Now this is the house where he lived. He didn't actually conduct any trials there or have any prisoners brought to him, but it was a pretty cool place. Just like a lot of museums, we weren't able to film inside the witch house, and we were astonished at how high the ceilings were and how big the house was given the period. I mean, it definitely was a show of a lot of wealth having a house this big and having all the rooms that they have. But I would say, just like everything else in October in Salem, plan ahead. We waited maybe 45 minutes in line just to get inside. But it's definitely on our must-do list. So we're going to continue on Essex Street and go to our next location. So follow me this way. We checked out Carmel, which is a French patisserie that had some delicious pumpkin spice macaroons. And I promised Andrea we would get something pumpkin-y while we're in Salem, and they definitely delivered. I would say if you can only stop at one place for a delicious treat, this would be the place. As we walk along Essex Street, it is very crowded, and we're here just towards the end of September. And in Salem, they celebrate Halloween quite well. So we heard from one of the locals or tour guides that in the fall season, the population triples in size. So if you want to avoid crowds, maybe coming a little bit earlier in the season's better. But you can see that it's just a lot of people around. And I don't blame them. This is the place to come for fall. So let's continue walking along the street. Our next stop is the Salem Witch Trials Memorial, which is a memorial for the people that died during the Salem Witch Trials, which 30 people were accused, 19 people were hanged, 5 people died in jail, and 1 person was pressed to death, which is all very grim. But during those times, people were very much on the edge, and witchcraft was very taboo. But we're going to continue on our path here. But before we do, I do want to mention at the 300th anniversary, they were able to acquit most of the people, and then the last person was acquitted a couple months ago. So it was good that they were able to acquit all the accused for witchcraft. But let's head to our next stop in Salem. Charter Street Cemetery is one of the oldest European burial grounds in all of Salem, probably maybe even the oldest in the country, or one of the oldest. Now, it doesn't have the people that were hanged or killed during the Salem witch trials, but they do have a few people that were directly or indirectly involved with it. But it's a really cool site to take a few minutes to just walk around. So let's keep walking and see what else we can explore in Salem. Near the Witch Trials Memorial, you can find shops as well as museums. Now, the museums are maybe not quite as historical as one may hope for. They're maybe a little bit cheesy or tourist trappy. It's definitely cool to check out if you're into some of those things. But we're going to continue our journey through Salem. One of the best ways to explore Salem is the Historic Trail, which you can find as a yellow line and would take you to all the hot spots or places of notice in Salem. But we're heading to the southeast section of the city where you can see the House of the Seven Gables as well as the Maritime Museum. Salem is a great place that you can explore by foot or by car. During the fall season, traffic can be quite busy, so we recommend coming in on foot or exploring the town on foot. It's a very walkable city, so it's very convenient. The town itself is starting their haunted happenings starting in October, so they have all these different events to celebrate the spooky season, which is pretty cool. The House of the Seven Gables is a must-do on our list, and it was owned by Nathaniel Hawthorne's cousin and inspired him to write the novel House of the Seven Gables. But when you come to the location, you can purchase a ticket to explore the house or the gardens. We recommend doing both, but right now we're just going to do the gardens since we're a little bit limited on time, but both are very spectacular to do. So let's take a look at the gardens. We just entered Nathaniel Hawthorne's birthplace, which is the original house where he was born, obviously. They moved it closer to the House of the Seven Gables in the 50s, I believe, and just kind of walk around and explore a little bit of some of the furniture and what it was like to live back in those days. We finished our experience at House of the Seven Gables, even though we didn't actually go into the house. But we got to see where Nathaniel Hawthorne was born, and the gardens look really spectacular. Normally you would be able to get a nice view of the ocean, but they have a private event going on right now, so fortunately we don't get to see that. But we're gonna check in with the Maritime Museum as our next stop, but you know, I definitely have to say, you know, this is a must-do, and exploring the gardens as well as the house is one of my personal recommendations in Salem so far. So let's head over to the Maritime Museum. This is America's oldest candy company. Ye Olde Pepper Company. Instead of a Y, you have an IE.
I know. These are the things I've been.
All right, Gibraltar's.
Yeah. The first candy commercially made in the United States. And then blackjacks are molasses candies.
Nice. So we found this really cool candy store, which is the oldest candy company in, I guess, the U.S. And we're going to get their world famous Gibraltar's, lemon Gibraltar's, but you can also get peppermint. And of course, we're going to get a little treat for one of our favorite followers or favorite nieces, a little pumpkin gummy. So let's get up to the cash register. Thank you.
Garden, you wanted to see it.
I tell you what, it's a fun candy company, and it's cool that it was like so old. And I'm excited to try these Gibraltars. I've never had Gibraltars before, so it should be a nice little treat after dinner. But let's continue our way to the Maritime Museum. This was a great stop, right across from the House of Seven Gables. We arrived at the Maritime National Historic Site. And at one time, this was probably, if not the busiest, but one of the busiest wharfs in all of New England. And at one time, this would be lined with all these ships. And at the end, you can see a lighthouse right there to direct the ships to land. And back in the day, the way the U.S. would make money is through taxing imported goods. So you have the customs house right there to make it very convenient to be taxed on all these goods. But it has roughly 12 structures and on 9 acres of land. So it's really cool to see what early New Englanders used to use back in the day. So let's go to the end of the lighthouse and explore the site a little more. At the wharf, they have a replica of the Friendship, and it was built originally in 1797 for the East Indian Company, which would ship goods all around the world. Since we came here a little bit later in the day, we're not able to tour the boat or get to go on the boat, but let's continue on and go to the lighthouse. At the end of the wharf, you have the lighthouse, which was built in the 1800s, and there's just spectacular views of Salem Harbor. And we're going to kind of take an hour or two to enjoy that, and then a little bit later on, we're going to enjoy some of the night festivities at Salem. Salem really comes alive from dawn to evening. So dusty evening. Dawn would be the opposite. But we'll check back in a little bit later with those activities. We're going to try this lemon Gibraltar, which we got at the Ye Olde candy store. And supposedly it's very famous for the Gibraltars, which I guess is like a hard candy. But this is what it looks like. It is pretty much a chunk of candy. I personally thought there was going to be like 2 or 3 pieces. This is huge. I'm trying to debate if I should break it with my hands or bite it. Bite it? All right, here we go.
It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's not all what I thought it was going to be.
It's almost like a lemon, like mint. Like, it's good. And the comparison I'm going to make isn't really meant to be offensive. But it's like your grandmother's mints that you would get. At least my grandmother would have like hard candy mints. That's kind of what it's like. Here, you try. This isn't on camera, but Andrea's face just tells me, loving it.
It's like an extra crispy, like meringue.
It's like a lemon drop, basically. A meringue lemon drop. I mean, it definitely wouldn't be my candy of choice.
It's not chocolate.
But you know what?
Nor is it pumpkin-y.
1 second. I want you just to take a look yonder from the candy. And yo-ho, we see a really cool ship coming in.
Any last words?
The view is spectacular. Yeah, I would say thumbs up for the candy shop. Just, they do have other options besides Gibraltar, so don't feel like that's the only thing they have to offer.
Yeah, get the chocolate truffles.
The truffles, yes, they have lots of truffles. So that's what I would recommend. Go with the truffles. If this gazebo and area looks very familiar, guess what? This was one of the filming locations from the Hocus Pocus movie. And Salem Columns is definitely hustling with activity today as there's a festival. But from the Commons, you can see Phillip's Elementary School, which was also another location where they filmed the Hocus Pocus original movie. They used some of the shots from the school. But this is a pretty active place, so we're going to maybe explore a little bit. One of the classic things to do in Salem during the nighttime is a ghost tour. So we're going to try to catch up on the ghost tour to learn about all the spooky things here in Salem.
In 1692, the Puritans truly believed that the devil walked among them and took physical form in their daily lives through witches. By September of 1692, 20 people have been executed, 19 of them via hanging, the exception being Giles Corey, who was pressed to death. An additional 4 people have died in prison because of the conditions and the torture that was going on there, and thousands of people across New England have been accused of witchcraft and their reputations and livelihoods obliterated.
We're learning a little bit more in depth about the Salem witch trials. She was talking about how some of the people were kind of recluses and how they were easily blamed. But I think hopefully in the next couple stops we'll dive into the ghosts and the spooky stuff.
In the 1800s, where Turner's is today, was known as Lyceum Hall. This building is where Alexander Graham Bell makes the first long-distance phone call. This building is also where Edgar Allan Poe delivers the telltale hearts to an audience for the first time. Of course, with all that history, especially directly with the trials, there's some spooky ghost stories for this building. Once you enter the front door, there's a large oak staircase leading up to the second floor, and on this staircase, there is said to be a full-body apparition of an older white woman in period clothing, presumably Bridget Bishop, who appears on the first landing of the stairs. In this prison, they held our prisoners in what was called a coffin cell. Our prisoners would be chained up in these coffin closets so that their spirits could not escape. So in 1692, one of the forms of torture that was being used in this prison is something called a thumb screw. You would slowly have a metal screw inserted into the base of your hand until you provided your interrogators with whatever answer they so desired.
Our ghost tour was phenomenal, and shout out to our tour guide, Sarah. She really knew her stuff. And you know, like you would expect, you start with the Salem witch trials, and we learned a lot about the people and the trials themselves. But my favorite story was the merchant's niece's fiance murdered him for his money. So that was interesting to hear. But the stories are a huge part of the culture here, and even were inspirations for Hawthorne and Edgar Allan Poe, as well as the board game Clue, which was pretty cool to find out. But nighttime, there's a lot of hustle and bustle, but ghost tours are definitely a thing to do, and definitely on our to-do list in Salem, so highly recommend. We're ending our night at the Witch House, and just a few doors down is the Ropes Mansion. And take a note from us, it's better to see it during the daylight hours, which autumn, the daylight hours get a little bit shortened, so we saw it during the nighttime. But it's most famous for the Hocus Pocus movie, where they filmed the exterior shot where Allison had a big Halloween party. So that's really cool. But as we conclude our experience here in Salem, I think it was a lot of fun. Like, I really enjoy the spooky things. The only downside is we didn't get a chance to try any pumpkin treats, so maybe next time. But we have a couple fall and winter activities coming up, so stay tuned for that. And don't forget to like and subscribe. But until next time, keep on exploring.